Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in congratulating and welcoming Billie Jean King.
I'll walk this off. Show it off, it's beautiful.
Where's Juju?
She's coming. So, folks, for the conversation.
I want her to have a photo with us.
For the conversation this afternoon, please join me in welcoming ABC News Nightline anchor and famed journalist Juju Chang.
I will.
Yeah, yeah.
Can you guys hear? Is my mic on yet?
Now it is.
I don't think so.
I think it
is
is.
my mic on? Can you hear me?
Yeah, it is now.
So I just want you to know this picture was possible because Billie Jean said, "I want Juju in this picture." And I said, "Billie, you're always fighting for women to be included."
I don't fight just for women. I fight for everyone.
Yes,
Here we go.
Yes. Are you on this side? Yes. You're on that side.
I'm on this side because of my mic.
First of all, I wanted to fact check the internet when it said you were 81 years old because, come on.
I am. I feel great.
And after a 20-year hiatus because of your knees, you started playing tennis again?
Yes, I have. I hit tennis balls with Lana, who Larry alluded to. Ilana, I love to brag about her, and she's not here today. She's really upset. She's out west working. And Ilana is from South Africa, left-handed, just like Jonathan's Greenblatt's father, Jerry, who plays. They're just stuff. Anyway, she won the Maccabi or the Maccabi, what country you're from.
Yes.
She won the Triple Crown, and she's from South Africa, and the athletes chose her to carry the flag, which I think is so great. So she's, we're in it. So
and I know you wanted
ADL is important to us.
Yeah, I know you wanted to acknowledge Larry Scott's work.
Larry. He's been. I've got him. What do you want to know? No, I'm kidding. Larry Scott was the executive director of the Women's Tennis Association, and I think he is the one person most responsible, particularly behind the scenes, as our executive director, to get equal prize money in all the major tournaments. It took from 1973 to 2007, but Larry is the one that got it over the top. So he doesn't talk about it, but I'm going to talk about him. And so that was really great. And he also went to Harvard, was the captain of the tennis team. He's a winner.
He's a pretty cool dude. He's a baller like you. Yeah. But the idea of longevity, the fact that you picked up a tennis racket again during COVID, I think the real key to longevity is living a life of purpose, which you've done. And you continue to fight every day on behalf of women and behalf of all people, as you say. But let's start with the epiphany. Where did it start as a 12-year-old Billie Jean had a racket in her hand?
Well, first, tennis was my last sport. I played all team sports before that. And you should know that my younger brother, Randy Moffat's our birth name, played 12 years of professional baseball. Most of them with the San Francisco Giants as a relief pitcher. But basketball was our first sport, and I played all team sports. And then Susan Williams said, "Do you want to play tennis?" This is 5th grade. And I went, "What's tennis?" I had no idea. So the first time I went to the Houghton Park, where we had free access, which is major. At the end of that session with Clyde Walker, who I ended up adoring, I knew what I wanted to do with my life, and that's be the #1 tennis player. But fast forward to 12 years old, now I played a whole year, and I'm trying to get a ranking and all that at the Los Angeles Tennis Club. And I started to daydream a little, and I realized everybody wore white, everybody played with white balls, and everybody who played was white. And I went, where's everybody else? And I realized, because I love history, I'm a geek about it, that tennis was global. And I thought, you know, if I could become number one, I know I'm a second-class citizen, but I know that my sisters of color and people with disabilities were worse off. But I knew that maybe, just maybe, I could make this world a better place if I could become number one. And so I have never lost sight of that day in those moments of thinking. And that's what I'm fighting for, is equality. And what ADL does, if you think about it, is having everyone matter, because every single person matters.
That's true. That's absolutely part of the mission. And it's what you do to this day. I mean, you know, fast forward, I'm going to gloss right over 39 Grand Slams and, 20 Wimbledon titles to start. But you helped launch the Women's Professional Tour. And you did that for tennis, but you've been doing it for other sports through the foundation. And you did it just for hockey, women's hockey, 2 years ago. I mean, you are as relevant now as you were in 1973 when it was all starting. But give us a sense of how you did it back then, the original 9.
The original 9,
and because you're using that formula even to this day.
Well, when I got into tennis, I was really upset because it was only amateur. And amateur, to me, means it's a hobby. And we were the best players in the world, the women were. And I said, we should be pros. I knew I wanted to change the game. And so 9 of us, I'll fast forward to 1970, but in the 60s, I was trying to get the men and women together to have one association. Because I said we would be so much more powerful, not just on the court, but off the court, what we could do for the world, like making it a better world. And they just could not see it. They told me to get lost. Okay, so I thought, okay, so there was 9 of us with Gladys Hellman. She's another Jewish, really wonderful person who was the publisher of World Tennis Magazine. Got us a sponsor, Philip Morris, led by Joseph Coleman, who's also, I think, pretty active in ADL. And we had a tournament in Houston, Texas, $1, we got $1 bill. There's an iconic photo with 9 of us holding this $1 bill. That is the birth of women's professional tennis the way you know it today. When you see a player get a check, it all started that day, September 23rd, 1970. And the 3 things that we really did this for is that any girl born in this world, if she were good enough, would have a place to play. Number 2, that we'd be appreciated for our accomplishments, not only our looks, which is still a challenge. And number 3, to be able to make a living playing the sport we love, tennis. So those are the 3 things, and they really ring true today.
And you use that template even for hockey. You get the best players. How do you do it?
The main thing is you've got to get the top players together, and you have to have the top 2 generations. You can't just have the top generation. Like we helped Julie Foudy back in 1999 with the 99ers. I don't know if you remember that. Some of you old enough will. When they played at the Rose Bowl, had over 90,000 people, and everybody said nobody would show up for them. And she said, she calls me, Kinger, help me. What should we do? And I said, well, what can you leverage? You have to figure what you leverage. The Olympics, the World Championships are usually the only 2 they have. And I said, are you willing? Sometimes you have to give up something to get something. And she's, okay. So they went and started to fight for equal money with the USA Soccer. And you probably know about Rapinoe and Lloyd and those players. And you thought it all started back in the late 90s is the reason they finally got to equal prize money. So it's a long haul and a lot of work behind the scenes from people you'll never heard of. But the top players have to stick together, because when USA Soccer went to Julie, they said, well, we don't care about you. You're old. We'll go to the next generation. She says, no, you won't. We have them. Then they said, okay, we're going to go to the 3rd generation. We have them too. They got white. And that's when things changed.
Absolutely. And it's not just USA Soccer, the WNBA. You and I talked about
the players have to stick together.
And the Liberty, and how wildly popular women's sports is becoming.
Oh, it is. It's on its way, because people with money, but very wealthy people, are now investing in us and not looking at it as a charity. We're actually business, which is, I love business. Owned tournaments since 1968. My former husband and I owned them. And so I understood the business side. And that's what I tell every athlete. They go, what should I do? I said, understand the business. because they don't. They just want more.
And you also talked about, from a woman's perspective, that you have to ask for what you want and need.
Oh.
And so you and I bonded with the Dodgers, because guess who's part of the ownership group of the LA Dodgers?
So,
please tell. Yeah.
Well, I grew up in Southern California. Sorry, Yankees, Mets, sorry. Because I used to have all the Yankee trading cards back as a kid in the 50s. California didn't have a pro team until the late 50s, early 60s. I was doing a fundraiser.
It's because they stole the Brooklyn Dodgers. That's what happened.
I love Jackie Robinson. That's a whole other discussion. And Rachel. So anyway,
you had to
after
ask to be part of the Dodgers.
After a fundraiser, you know, Mark Walter came up to Ilana and they said, well, maybe you should be with the Sparks, which I love basketball. And I said, and I thought to myself, why don't I just, for the first time in my life, really ask what I want and need, not what we want and need. So I go, well, what about the Dodgers? Because I grew up with them, and I'm from Long Beach, California. And he goes, why not? That's how that happened. That's how scary is. We as women do not ask for what we want and need. And I think 20% of you are young people here today. Make sure that you define yourself. Don't let anybody else define you. You define yourself. And hang on.
You know, I don't know if you know this, but there's a major documentary coming out next year on Billie Jean King. There's a Broadway show in the works about Billie Jean King. She's not embarrassed about it at all.
Yeah, I am.
And, you know, I was reading back in your bio, and I didn't realize that Elton John wrote the song about you.
Philadelphia Freedom?
Philadelphia Freedom is about Billie Jean King.
Yeah, we're going to a concert. We were going to a concert together, and we're sitting in the back of this car, and he goes, I want to write a song for you. And of course, I'm thinking, I didn't hear this right? There's no way. And I said, what? He goes, what are we going to call it? He thinks really fast. You got to go fast. I go, did I hear you right? He says, yes. So what are we going to call it? He goes, how about the Philadelphia Freedom? Because I was playing team tennis for them. And he loved to come out and cheer for us. I said, that would be a great gift to the people of Philadelphia if you did that. They still, I mean, it's like their anthem. And it became #1, crossed over into R&B, and became #1. And he loves R&B. And so it was the first time he had a song that crossed over into R&B, because he knew I liked that sound of Philadelphia. It's a great sound. And anyway, that's that. And then there's... Yeah.
I was bringing this all up because of the documentary and because of the Broadway show, because so many people focus on the Bobby Riggs Battle of the Sexes.
That's because there's a guy involved. Yeah.
There was a guy involved.
I'm not kidding. I can go through my whole life and can explain how.
But I also think that moment in history, Title IX had just been passed, and you were telling me the backstory on Title IX. There was a lot of change, as Bob Dylan would say.
Right.
Things they are changing.
They were. Oh, that's, you know, we could play 3 chords on it.
Exactly right.
Where have all the flowers gone? I mean, everybody was
so
playing.
When you look back in the rearview mirror at the Bobby Riggs match and 1973 and all that happened then, what comes to mind for you?
I knew before the match that it was about social change. I knew that we'd have a lot of people watching. Title IX had just been passed the year before, even though I didn't talk about it that much. I was thinking hard. In Title IX, everyone thinks it pertains to sports. But before 1972, the classroom quotas are really small. For instance, if you wanted to go to Harvard and become a doctor as a woman, they only allowed 5% of the class to be women. And that's why there were no women doctors and lawyers and all that. So that changed that. But now we have too many women. We have 57% women go to college, and that we need 50-50. We need more guys to come get back in there, because it should be equal. And in Title IX there was the word activity. It's only 37 words if you read it. But Senator Birch Bayh became a great hero friend of mine, and he was one of the co-authors. In fact, he actually wrote it out. And they couldn't decide whether to leave activity in or take it out. But because they decided to leave it in is the reason we have scholarships for women to college in athletics and sports. Otherwise, we still wouldn't be getting scholarships. Like, I'm pre-Title IX. I worked 2 jobs, went to school. So, and the reason we have women's professional sports is because of Title IX. We have a talent pool of women now, just like the men have always had. It's always been basically a farm system for pro men's sports to do their draft, and it's because they always had sports in college. Well, now the women have it as well. And in '96 Olympics is where women shined for the first time in Atlanta.
I also know that you've been a tireless advocate for the LGBTQ community, and that you were threatened. That's worthy of applause, absolutely. But it was during your fight to start a professional league for women that you were threatened with being outed. And that this was a very ugly chapter.
Well, during the tour, I was told if I say anything, we won't have a tour. So that kept it really easy. I'm not going to say anything. I was going through such tumult, trying to figure out who I am. You know, I was married to Larry. I'd asked for a divorce. He wouldn't give it to me. It was horrible. And eventually, I was outed. I had an affair with Marilyn Barnett, and I was outed in '81. And I lost everything overnight.
All the endorsements,
everything.
all the, yeah.
And I finally was going to make some money, because my generation, we didn't make the big bucks. I don't think if you look up, you'll see how
And yet you were the first woman to earn $100,000, and you were.
I told Larry I want to make over 100 next year on the first year of the tour, because that way people will follow the tour, and then we'll get people to watch the tour. And because when you get on television, you talk about the other players, you talk about the dream, and you talk about the dream for the future generations, because that's really, the first generation's really doing it for the future generations. But I want every child to have the dream, whatever that is for you, whatever that is for any child. I don't care what gender, I don't care. I want everyone to have their dream. And girls didn't have it, and now we do, as far as sports. But as far as LGBTQ plus community, it was horrible in '81. I mean, it was horrible. It is so much better today than it's ever been, but it still has a long way to go. In trans, I've known trans people since the '70s. People just think it's easy on it. It is such a hard road for trans. It's just, and everyone has a tough time. All of you have had a tough journey, I'm sure, in some way.
And we were talking about knowing, why it's important for you always to stand up to any kind of hate.
I hate, and of course, how can you not love the ADL for that? I mean, come on. That's what you stand for. Anti-hate.
Anti-hate, because when it comes to the trans community or any minority community, it's a matter of numbers. You were saying it's easy to target.
When you're a small number, how many Jews do we have in the world?
15
Thank you, 15 million in the whole world. That's a small number, and I still think that has some, not everything, but something to do with why people, it's easier. It's like being a bully on the playground. You have a guy who's 6 feet, and you got this little guy, and the big guy just gonna beat the little guy, and what are you supposed to do? I mean, the difference is huge. My brother, oh my God, I love my brother. He and I were the anti-bully in the neighborhood, and then at school, because my brother's 6'3", and he's strong, and he used to go and really protect the kids that were smaller and that were always picked on. And it's just, it does happen. You see it in size, you see it in the numbers, and that's why as human beings, I always look at each person as a human being first. I don't care of course I know what color you are or whatever. Forget that though. It's like start from scratch with every person and just be kind and good. This is not rocket science. And to listen.
Yeah. And I will say, it's kind of a cliche to say you are a student of history, but you're literally studying history.
I went back to college, you guys.
She went back to college.
I want to finish. I was 3 years in, and I wanted to be #1 in the world, and I knew I couldn't be #1 in the world if I kept going to college. So I left, and Larry said to me at the time, because we were married at the time, he goes, "You have to leave." He says, "You're meant to play. You're meant to do all these things." And so I went to Australia, and after that, the Australians were great to me. They're the reason I think I became #1. They helped me a lot. And then the next year I was #1, but I couldn't have done it if I stayed in school. So now I'm going back to school. I've got 1 year, I got to finish. I hate, you got to finish, right?
You are an example of be the change you want to see. You've lived a life of purpose, a life of meaning, and as a student of history, where do you see the future heading in terms of questions around equality and fairness and anti-hate? And we have like a minute 30 left. I can't believe it.
I have no idea. Do you guys? I have no idea of the answers. I am so bamboozled right now, thinking, I mean, I don't care if you're Republican, Democrat, Independent, I don't care. I just don't understand why we can't be good to each other. I just don't understand it. And power in numbers, and also very, very wealthy people have a lot of power. But because of that, more responsibility, I think. I'm not so sure that's the way a lot of them think about it. But I think the more you have, the more responsibility we have as people. I know I was talking to Jonathan Greenblatt backstage, your prez. I think he's been president 10 years. And I think he's done a great job. And I like the fact that we have our leadership council, and then you have the entertainment council. And all of us have a platform, and it's our job to speak up and keep fighting for kindness and no hate, get rid of hate. We cannot be against, it cannot be, it drives me crazy. I don't know what to say. I don't have any answers, to be honest. I don't know. Do any of you have any answers right now? I am so perplexed. My brain's frying with what we need to do or what should we do. But all I know is ADL is needed more than ever right now. That I am clear on. It's no-brainer.
Well, I just want to, from the bottom of my heart, thank you on behalf of the audience, because I know each and every one of us has been inspired by you in the many myriad ways that you've been a change maker and an embodiment of this award. Thank you so much, Billie Jean.
Thank you. It means so much to me. Thank you, everyone. Okay. Bless you.
I think we can walk out that way.
This way?
Yeah.
I want my award.